Hello there, people of the internet. I'm going to go ahead and start off by saying I've talked about this topic before on the channel, and as have just a tremendous amount of other firearms channels on YouTube, but I'm going to go ahead and toss my hat back into this ring. We're talking about black powder cap and ball revolvers for self-defense purposes. So normally whenever people are talking about one of these, they're talking about either an 1851 Colt, an 1858 New Model Army, or an 1860 Colt. Those are going to be your most common revolvers that are discussed for this particular topic. People normally aren't walking around with Walker revolvers for self-defense purposes. People normally aren't walking around with some specialized, more obscure version of an 1860 or an 1851 or something like that. Normally they're going to be rocking something like this right here. So what most of these are, we're going to go ahead and talk about the 44 caliber because I feel like that's going to be most popular for your self-defense situations. We're talking about a 44 caliber, more often than not round ball, which is going to be like, oh, I don't even know the grainage on one of those. Alright, here we go. I got the good old-fashioned scale. I just throw that on the ground. I got some 45 caliber round ball here. Let's see what the grain weight is we're looking at, shall we? So yeah, about 145 grain. That's about what I was expecting from these little round ball, but I didn't want to say that and be wrong. I was going to say about 147 grain. But you're looking at a 145, 147 grain bullet. It's going to be moving about from something like this. If we have 30 grains of black powder, say 3F, and it's actual compressed commercial grade black powder, not homemade screen stuff or anything like that, you're looking at about 1,000 feet per second, give or take. So that's going to give you about the same ballistic energy as maybe a little bit more powerful than 380. We're going to go ahead and call it about the same as 9mm, although 9mm is a lighter weight bullet moving a little bit faster, but we're just going to go ahead and call it about that. So it's definitely got adequate power in terms of putting something down or putting someone down or defending yourself against most things that most people would need to defend themselves against. And you got 6 shots of that. Now, round ball is not the most accurate. If you want to use conical bullets, then there's an argument to be made for accuracy there. But as these things foul up with the black powder fouling, as you shoot it more and more and more, you're going to get less and less accurate. That's just the nature of the beast. But most often than not, you're going to have those 6 shots, and those 6 shots really aren't going to lose that much accuracy, especially in terms of these self-defense distances that most self-defense encounters are most likely to take place at. I wouldn't exactly take this to engage, I don't know, some trouble going on 100 yards away, but if somebody was right on top of you, then this right here should be adequate enough. I'm sure somebody down below is going to mention, you know, hey, I have this legal issue that stops me from being able to buy a firearm, but I'm allowed to have this. Like, if that's the case, then yes, this right here might be one of your better options. Either that or like a double barrel black powder shotgun, which I thought that I had right here. Ah, there she is. If you manage to get yourself a double barrel black powder shotgun like what I got right here, this is also a really good self-defense option because you got 2 shots. In this particular case, it's 12 gauge, and this right here, even though it is black powder, still has quite a bit of power behind it. But if you decide to go the cap and ball route, if you do want to go with your cap and ball route, there are a couple of ways to be able to reload this thing rather quickly in comparison to doing it the more traditional way with like pouring gunpowder down a cylinder, then pushing a ball into it, and then using your ramrod to ram that ball home, and then putting a percussion cap on the back. If you want to get serious with one of these for self-defense, I would definitely recommend using paper cartridges, which you can make yourself. I made them myself before on a coffee filters. They're not overly difficult to make, but you have your powder charge and your typically round ball already put together and compressed inside paper, to where all you do is you push that actual like paper cartridge into your cylinder, and then you ram that home, so you don't have to worry about measuring anything out or messing around with black powder. They're all already pre-measured, pre-designated, like pre-charged cartridges that you push into your cylinder. and then you can go ahead and put the percussion cap on behind them, and it's going to be a significantly faster means of being able to reload these things. Or what you could do is you could take out your barrel wedge right here, pull your barrel off, pull your cylinder off, and then just put a whole new already loaded cylinder onto your gun. But something like the 1851 and the 1860, basically any of your open top revolvers, disassembling your gun completely into multiple pieces while in a stressful situation is probably not a very good idea, because the likelihood of you losing a piece is quite high. If you decide to go that route, I would definitely recommend getting yourself the 1858, because with something like this right here, disassembly is quite easy, and getting yourself another cylinder in there is quite easy. Old cylinder out, new cylinder in. Granted, I'm not the fastest at this. And then you push your barrel pin into your cylinder, just like that, and now you have yourself your fresh new cylinder already loaded and ready to go. I imagine that you could get quite good, quite fast at doing that. Let's see if I can do that any faster. Old one out. Let's go ahead and put the new one in, stick it about right there, and close that up, just like that. That's definitely a hell of a lot faster than trying to reload all 6 cylinders of cap and ball under stress. So if you do decide to go this route, maybe go out and get yourself a couple other cylinders that you can keep on your person and keep loaded. Now, all that being said, if you do really want to use a cap and ball revolver for self-defense purposes, I would recommend not using a cap and ball revolver for self-defense purposes. If that's all you can get for legal purposes or something like that, you could go out and get that cap and ball revolver converted to, say, a Richard Mason system or something similar of the sort. There's plenty of companies out there that will go ahead and do that for you. This right here is a 45 Colt Walker. It has been converted to 45 Colt, and it is, I believe, a Richard Mason conversion. But what this allows is the addition of a loading gate, so you can actually load physical cartridges into your firearm versus having to fumble around with a cap and ball system. And this right here is definitely not only going to be a more reliable system, because cap and ball revolvers can be a little bit unreliable at times. Your ammunition is going to be sealed, so you can go ahead and use this thing in the rain in the event that you need to, although there are ways to rather effectively seal a cap and ball revolver. They're not going to be as effective as an actual metallic cartridge. On top of that, reloading something like this is going to be significantly easier than reloading something like a cap and ball cylinder. Even if you have multiple cylinders for that thing, all you got to do if you are in times of trouble, you don't have to completely reload a cylinder. If you need to take a shot, then you just take your one round, you shove it in there, line it up with the chamber. You don't even have to close your loading gate. You just pull that trigger and you got that one shot, and she'll go bang. You could send some lead pretty gosh darn quickly with something like that. But the Richard Mason system, and there's other loading gate conversion systems out there that you can do with your cap and ball revolvers, that's probably going to be your best option. If you want to go the route of getting yourself a conversion cylinder, like one of those ones that doesn't take significant modification for your revolver, you have to still disassemble your revolver every time that you want to reload that cylinder. Oftentimes that's going to take more time and more effort than just having a second black powder cylinder already loaded. And for the intents and purposes of a defensive situation, although the conversion cylinder and the metallic cartridge may offer a more powerful option, this right here should still be powerful enough to handle those situations, not unless you're dealing with something pretty gosh darn significant. Like 45 Colt from my Colt Walker would be significantly more powerful than round ball with 30 grains powder behind it from my 1851 here. So if I was going to pick something to defend myself against whatever it is that is coming after me, I would probably want a Richard Mason conversion in a short-barreled 1851 or something like this right here. This way I could actually operate with a loading gate thing. I won't have to worry about disassembling my gun in the event that something catastrophically bad were to start happening, because if something starts going wrong, I don't want to have to worry about effectively pulling off this barrel, getting my cylinder out and whatnot. Or even with the 1858, effectively getting this cylinder out, although if you do have the practice, you could do it quite quickly and quite effectively. I don't know how much I would trust myself to be able to line everything up and get that new cylinder in and get this thing back up and going if I am in trouble. I feel like just having a loading gate system would be easier to reload. Now, if you are just bound and determined to use a revolver in general, I would recommend getting yourself something like this. Something that has some sort of either top break or flip open cylinder to where you can access the full cylinder versus just one single cylinder at a time, or one single chamber at a time. And the main reason why I suggest this is because whenever you have something that breaks open like this, you can go ahead and use, these are called like speed loaders. These right here would normally have cartridges in them. You shove those into your cylinder, and then you twist it. Those rounds stay in the cylinder, and you can close your revolver and get back to work. And there's going to be a much faster reloading system than any sort of loading gate revolver or any sort of black powder cap and ball revolver or anything like that. My camera just died. Hopefully I didn't lose anything there. But where was I? The big thing that people lean towards whenever it comes to these revolvers is that technically, since these are not cartridge firing revolvers, they classify under legal definition from the 1935 Gun Control Act and the 1935 and 1968 Gun Control Acts, or maybe it was 1932. Anyway, some various legal definitions from gun control acts that have passed in the United States. This right here, although it is modern made, classifies as an antique firearm because of the way that the system is designed. And since it's antique, you don't have to worry about paperwork or anything like that whenever it comes to these guns. They can just be shipped right to your door. And that is one of the big appeals about these. That's one of the main reasons why people lean towards these if they are in any kind of legal trouble, or if they are in a situation where they don't want to have to fill out a 4473, or maybe they want something that has no paperwork on it, no trails that can be traced back to them or anything like that. That's one of the glorious things about these guns. And although I think by legal definition in several states, I think that you can even carry these without a concealed carry permit, but we have a whole bunch of states where we have permitless carry now, and hopefully in the next couple of years we'll see even more states adopt that philosophy to where you can carry whatever style of handgun you want without a concealed carry permit. So definitely a lot of benefits whenever it comes to the legalities of your cap and ball revolver. It doesn't technically count as a handgun, and if you really want to get serious with it, I would recommend installing some sort of loading gate in it. But even if you don't install that loading gate, even if you do decide to keep just the cap and ball black powder cylinder, you still should have enough power to be able to handle whatever it is that you're looking to handle. I wouldn't hot rod these, especially if we're talking about like the brass frame, open top 1851 and 1860 revolvers. If you want something that you can shove a little bit more power into, maybe go out and get yourself a full-fledged steel frame, new model Army style of handgun where you have like a closed frame and you don't have to worry about the open top, much weaker frame system that the Colt models had. Granted, these right here, they do gum up a little bit faster just because the Colt system had various like black powder fouling rings and whatnot that really prevented it from fouling up. But if you're in a bad situation, odds are you're not going to fire enough rounds to be able to foul up that system to the point to where the gun's going to go down. Even if you shove multiple cylinders through your revolver, the likelihood of that situation being resolved before fouling really begins to take place is quite high. I do want to point out that on your actual cap and ball cylinders versus something like a conversion cylinder, you're going to have 6 shots available to you just because of the dimensions of how the cap and ball system works. We are able to have all 6 cylinders loaded, and we can actually keep the hammer on one of these notches on the cylinder right here, and that there keeps it off of the percussion cap but locks it in place to where the cylinder doesn't move, so you can keep all 6 rounds or all 6 chambers loaded without the worry of accidentally setting off your revolver because your hammer's resting on, say, a percussion cap or a primer. versus the dimensions on a loading gate, those just are not there. We cannot make that happen with cartridge firing revolvers just because of a lack of room and a lack of material on the cylinder. And so as a result, if you do decide to go the cartridge route with your side ejection loading gate, you would want to do what is called a cowboy load, and you have an empty cylinder inside your revolver that you can safely rest your hammer down on, so your firing pin is not just resting on a primer. Because if that is the case and you bump your hammer, then your primer goes off, and next thing you know, you have a bullet in your foot, and you definitely don't want that. So you do have 5 shots with your loading gate, but it's an easier to reload system versus your 6 shots with your black powder system. Although if you got yourself an 1858, reloading the cylinders on these right here really is not that difficult of a task. And I feel like reloading a black powder cylinder that's already been loaded and preloaded for your 1858, like this one out and away, here's the new one, I feel like this right here is still going to be faster than loading, you know, another 5 or 6 rounds inside of a ejection gate. Now, that still doesn't mean that I don't think that you should go out and get yourself something like this. Like, if you want to use a revolver and that's all you're looking at, then something like this right here would be ideal. Something that you can use speed loaders on if you're bound and determined to use a revolver for defensive purposes. So, thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate your time. I don't think I have anything else to add to this. This video was a little bit all over the place, but boy did I have fun with it. I guess I'll see you guys on the next episode. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.